Hello, and welcome to the weekly broadcast of Strategic Speaking for Results. I'm Elizabeth Bachman, your host, and today I want to talk about how to tell your personal stories, when to tell your personal stories in the workplace, and when not. I've been having several interviews with podcast guests in the past few weeks, and the subject of hiding who you are has come up many times. And often we are afraid to tell people who we are because we think it doesn't sound professional, or we are part of a minority culture. So we're not part of, you might be the only woman or the only the only Latinx person, the only Black person, the only Asian, many, many possibilities. Yet telling your personal story can can be your friend. Yeah, maybe when you're starting out, you want to listen more than you talk. Telling stories about yourself when you're brand new might not be so great. When I first started at the Metropolitan Opera, a friend of mine who had retired from there said, "The Met is a very corporate place, and your first 3 years, your entire job is just to figure out how the system works." And he was right. However, as you grow and you become part of a team, of course, your personal stories will make sense. Ask your colleagues, what about them? Why are they here? Why are they in this business? I had a client who does sales and marketing for a pharmaceutical company, and she went into pharmaceuticals because she trained as a doctor and realized she didn't like blood, but she still wanted to heal people. So she learned about pharmacology instead. Now, there's a story that took about 30 seconds, and that's a way to illustrate a point. Stories are very good for illustrating points. Stories about yourself, like, I got into this business because I didn't like blood, people will understand. And then it makes you real. It makes you authentic. It makes you a real person to them. Stories are what cause engagement. It's very important if you're doing a longer speech in a presentation, you want to tell stories that will illustrate the point the way I just did, because people remember stories more than they remember facts. And way you can do is tell stories about your accomplishments within the workplace so that people remember the good things you did. And of course, you give credit to the team, but don't hide the fact when it was your idea. Or even if you're the person who keeps things running smoothly, pay attention to that. Figure out what it is that you do to keep the lights on, to keep things running smoothly, and talk about it. Another great way to tell stories is if you're doing a presentation to people who don't know you and you want them to relate to you, they want to be engaged, talk about why it matters. Actually, this works within the workplace too. Why do you care about the job you do? How did you get into this business? I had a client who was working in the disaster relief area, in the legal area of disaster relief. And she was telling all sorts of dry information. And she just happened to mention that she cared about this because she used to live in New Orleans and she lost her house during Hurricane Katrina. And I said, "Why aren't you talking about this?" So she added that right at the beginning. The reason this matters is because I lost my house to Hurricane Katrina, and I was already working in this business, but then I saw from the point of view of the victim, the survivor, why it mattered. When she did that, she got so much more engagement than she ever did when she was just talking about facts and figures. Now, you don't want to talk too much, and you always want to tell the appropriate stories. Nobody really wants to know what you had for breakfast or if the dog threw up on the carpet. But you do want to tell a story that's appropriate. Don't go on too much, though. In my family, I grew up in a family of storytellers, of women who told long, rambling stories. And it's taken me years to train myself to get to the point. And there are still family members who tell long, rambling stories, and it drives me nuts. Make sure that you've practiced, that there's a point, and then you can use the stories over and over again. These are the building blocks of the presentations that you do. They should be 1 to 2 minutes. The other good tip about stories is, excuse me, choose a story that they can relate to. When I was first starting out in the speaker training business, I was told we were taken through Joseph Campbell's hero's journey. And they said, find the worst thing that ever happened to you and tell that story. And I tried to do that. But actually, the worst thing that ever happened to me that caused me to turn around and start a new business was something that was very unique to the opera world. The people I was talking to had no idea why it mattered. Then I found a story that was still true. It was maybe the second worst thing that happened to me, but it was something they could relate to. And I could see people's eyes lighting up. I could see them going, ah, I understand why this matters. This is important. Next time, I'm going to talk to you about when to tell these stories. So please come back. This has been Strategic Speaking for Results. I'm Elizabeth Bachman. I'll see you on the next one.